In April 2009, Sadhguru conducted, in the lap of the Master, a special 3-day satsang at Isha Yoga Center. Music by Sounds of Isha set their very own tone, while an array of cultural programs added color and flavor. Insightful discourses by Sadhguru prepared the soil. Question and answer sessions allowed the participants to delve deeper into their spiritual quest. Powerful meditation processes made the spiritual seed sprout into an experiential reality. This video shares precious moments spent in the presence of a self-realized yogi and mystic. Enjoy a spiritual exploration that leads us from the profane to the most profound.
At the foothills of these sacred mountains, they are having their own satsang. It's bedtime stories, Why would a mountain become sacred? After all, it's just a mound of earth. If it's a small mound, we call it a grave. It's a large mound, we call it a mountain. Why would a mountain become sacred? Is it just because it is hard on our knees that we are overwhelmed by a mountain? Is it because of the difficulty of getting there to the top, which makes it very large in human consciousness? In a way, that's true. If you could simply run up the mountain without any effort, you wouldn't have thought much of the mountains, because it extracts life to get to the top. People begin to think mountains are great. But I'm calling this mountain sacred, not because it's hard to climb. I am not of that kind who makes everything that is hard in life sacred. I am not that kind. For me, eating a banana is very sacred. Do you have difficulty? Do you have difficulty eating a banana? It's very sacred. If you remain hungry for 3 days and then eat a banana, you would know how sacred it is. To perceive anything, to know the significance of even something as simple as eating a banana, you need preparation, 3 days of fasting. So to perceive the sanctity of these mountains also you need preparation, otherwise you wouldn't understand. But why would a mountain become sacred? Just a mound of earth. If you know a few geological facts, you know how it all happened. Long time ago, but you know how it happened. For me, this is very sacred because my Guru walked upon it. He even chose to shed his physical self upon it. And when he wanted to say something to me, he did not sit down like this and talk to me. He could have told me. But everything that he wanted to tell me, he put it upon the peak of this mountain. So it's very sacred to me. Right from my infancy, he drove me from within these mountains. For him, these mountains became sacred. And for many in this tradition of this clan, these mountains become sacred. Because long time ago, there was a young maiden in South India, southernmost tip of India, the southernmost point of the Indian subcontinent or the peninsula. She aspired to hold Shiva's hand, not his feet. She's a proud woman, not his feet. She wanted to hold his hand as a wife. She said, if at all, if I marry, it's only him. If you have big desires, you also have to make yourself capable. Otherwise, desires can be very frustrating. So she started working towards making herself capable to be suitable to draw that man. And her devotion crossed all boundaries. Her austerities crossed all levels of sanity. And she remained absolutely focused upon him, not desiring him in the evenings when she has nothing to do. Every moment, just on it. So it stirred up Shiva's compassion and love. So he started making his journey to South India. But all the other gods conspired. They did not want him to have a South Indian wife. They played many tricks to stop him. And she set up this deadline. If I'm not married to him by sunrise on this day, I'm going to leave my body. She had become an accomplished yogin by then, that she could leave her body if she wished. And Shiva came to know of this and was hurrying down. Then the other gods thought, if he gets married here, he may not go back up there, he may start living in South India. So they conspired to create a false sense of sunlight. When light came up, Shiva thought, oh, sun came up and I could not meet the deadline. He was close. And he thought, it's over, and he turned back. So she left her body standing. Even today she stands there as Kanyakumari. There is a shrine at the very tip of this country, at the very tip of this landmass, where it is known as Kanyakumari, or it is the maiden's shrine. So he turned back and he felt very disappointed with himself that he could not meet up to her devotion. So little despondent, frustrated with himself that he didn't make it in time, he started walking back and he needed a place to sit and work out his despondency. So he climbed up this mountain, and at the peak of this mountain he sat. We don't know how long, but because wherever Shiva stepped and spent a little bit of time, people called that place as Kailash. So they call this the Kailash of the south. In its height, in its color, probably in its magnitude, it may not be comparable to the Kailash in the Himalayas. But in its potency and in its beauty and in its sacredness, it is not any less. It's a fortune that we are sitting here at the foothills of this mountain, because if anything has to happen, the right kind of atmosphere is very crucial. If this plant has to flower, the soil should be right. The seed may be great, but if the soil, the temperature, the air, the water, if it's not right, this great seed is not going to get anywhere. So creating an appropriate atmosphere for anything to happen is most important. Life happens because of ambience. It is the ambience of your mother's womb which made you who you are right now. It is the ambience of the family and social situations which slowly shaped you the way you are. This is something that people have not taken enough care about. For you to grow physically, if you can call off the telephones. Nice official atmosphere, but not good for the satsang, you know. When you were born as a helpless little baby or an infant, the lap of your mother, the comfort the security, the nourishment of your mother's lap was crucial. Can I not grow up without it? You can. But it could be a struggle. It wouldn't be a joy to grow up. And it is possible that you could be physiologically or psychologically impaired in the process of your growth, simply because you did not have that lap. Can I not grow up in a crib? You can. But it wouldn't be the same. It would mean a lot of struggle. So even for your physiological and psychological growth, what kind of ambience? The lap of your mother, the maternal lap, becomes very important. For one's spiritual growth, for one to flower spiritually, the lap of grace is most important. Can I not grow without it? You can. It would be improper to say you cannot. You can. But it would be a lot of struggle. Lot of struggle. I don't see many here who would be capable of that kind of struggle. They would only give up. Because it takes almost inhuman attitude towards yourself. If you have to grow without grace, you have to be literally inhuman to yourself, very hard upon yourself. Otherwise, simply you will go in circles not knowing what you're doing. Is it the cruelty or the inhumanity of it which makes you grow? No. This cruelty and inhumanity makes sure that you don't go the wrong way. So people who chose very hard ways of doing things, they have chosen that way because they are orphaned seekers. Without the lap of grace, they are trying to grow. I know the pain of this better than anybody. 2 lifetimes of heartbreaking sadhana. Really, body anyway breaks. You know, for some people their hearts break before their bodies break. But there are some others, they won't let their hearts break because they made themselves like stones. So body breaks first. But slowly, that also begins to break. Fortunately, you're right. But probably it took so long because I made myself like this. Even if God appears, I cannot bow down to Him. I filled myself with such sense of pride and hardness that even if God appears, I cannot bow. It took 2 lifetimes of softening up, full-time softening up, not part-time, I want you to know, full-time, to become overwhelmed, to allow somebody to overwhelm you. And once you genuinely bow down, now you can bow down to anything. You show me a pebble, I'll bow down, not just to the mountain. I bow down to the mountain every day. But you show me a little pebble, that also I'll bow down. because it takes so much to realize that you actually do not even know what this blade of grass is yet. Even if you're a great scientist or a biologist, you still do not know what even this blade of grass is. Yes? You still do not know? Forget about the mountain, forget about the existence, forget about the creator altogether. Even this blade of grass, you still do not know it. You do not know an atom in this existence. You do not know an atom of this physical self. When you realize the magnitude of your ignorance, then you're willing to crawl at everything. When you come from an assumption, because of the bits and pieces of information that you have collected, when you come from the assumption that you know, your spine becomes like a steel rod and you cannot bend. You cannot bow at anything. Spent 2 lifetimes like steel. Steel is not strong. Only a fool thinks steel is strong. Steel is strong if you want to do menial jobs. But if you want to do the highest thing that a human being can do, you will see steel is not strong. That's not the kind of strength it takes. So to be in the lap of grace, and doubly to be in the grace of such a large establishment, it's a fortune. We can set up an experiment for you to experience what is the difference. If I make you walk, just walk away a kilometer or 2, and with your eyes closed, we'll help you, we will make sure that you don't walk into anything. With your eyes closed, maintaining a certain level of awareness, you walk, you will see a distinct difference taking you up, a distinct difference happening within the very physical system as you move closer to this space. To set up such a lap of grace, many have contributed. But now, around the world, all kinds of things are happening in the name of spiritual process. Once it happened, there was a jackal. The jackal was getting old, having difficulty finding food in the forest. People who have never been in nature always think nature is very gentle, nature is very kind. That's because they saw nature only in the movies. They've never been out in the forest. They don't know what it takes to live there. Nature is very discriminating between strength and weakness. It lets only the strong live. The weak, it'll absorb out of its love. It's nice to think so, okay. So, the jackal was having difficulty finding food. One day, it saw a huge pack of rats, thousands of them, going together, running in a direction. Then he looked at this, wow, This is an unlimited source of food. Not one, thousands and thousands of them. And they're all running into one hole. Now that looks like paradise, full of food, you know. But if you run after them and try to catch them, at the most you may catch one or two. A jackal lives not by his physical strength, but by his cunning. So he started thinking. Then, one day in the evening, by… what time did you arrive here? 5:30? You started morning, okay. By 5:30 in the evening, he went and stood in front of this hole, the rat hole, on two legs. Jackal has… how many legs shall we give him? 4. Okay, we'll make it 4. He was standing on two legs, like this, two legs up, his face slightly upturned. You got me. With a slightly upturned face, but he had his mouth open. You don't do that, hmm? Can somebody demonstrate? Just like that. He just stood there like that. Then, as the sun was setting, the rats, it was time for them to move out. They came, they saw the jackal and ran back. Danger. But slowly again and again, they need to come out. They came and saw the jackal looks totally harmless and standing like a statue. I'm sorry, like a yogi. And slowly they came and they moved little away around, what's happening here? But he just stood there, completely not interested in them. Then they gathered, a huge gathering happened. And then the leader of the rat clan, a big one, came and asked, "Oh jackal, what are you doing here? Why are you standing on two legs when you have 4? Which is a more stable way of locomotion, you know." He said, "That is just to avoid putting all my weight on this planet, because for who I am, this planet cannot bear my weight. So, 2 legs, I hold it up so that the planet doesn't crumble, so that all of you don't suffer." Oh, that's a very noble thought. That's very nice of you. We don't want the planet to crumble. But why do you have your mouth open? Because open mouth, a jackal's open mouth is very threatening for the rats. They said, "Why do you have your mouth open?" He said, "That's because I eat only air. I am a pavahari. Nothing else but air. That's why I'm continuing to consume air." They said, "That's very encouraging. That looks safe. But then why are you looking up?" He said, "That's because I'm constantly in contact with the divine." Then all the rats said, "Oh, this is marvelous. We have a sage, a great sage, who is concerned about the planet's well-being, who eats only air and constant communication with the divine, what more? They all gathered around him and they discovered new kinds of rituals which they had seen in the temples, and it started happening. So they do all this, and in the morning when they're leaving, they have to go back into their hole. When they're going, the last bunch of them, when they're leaving, the jackal gets on his four legs and grabs a few of them. Every day in the morning, he has a nice huge breakfast and he rests during the day when the rats don't come out. Evening 5:30, ready. So, he became immensely popular, more rat colonies started visiting him and so many things started happening. One day, one of the lieutenants of the rat chief went and said, "Oh my lord, I do not know, I cannot think of anything as to what is happening, but I think our numbers are dwindling." One went away. Our numbers are dwindling, I cannot figure out any reason, nothing has happened. And the rat chief started thinking, what could be the reason? And then he noticed the jackal is getting fatter by the day. Here the numbers are dwindling and he's getting fat. He doesn't look like he's living on air. If you live on air, you should become like thin air over a period of time. So one day, he decided to stay back in the morning, hid himself elsewhere to see what's happening, and then he discovered the whole secret of the sage. There are too many like this. There are too many. And they're getting fatter by the day. And this has caused immense damage to the very seeking in people. Because if there is no trustful ambience, there will be no spiritual process as such. To maintain the sanctity of this, that people in the last row need not worry if they are going to be eaten up, or rather, people in the first row that they need not worry about their security and safety and what is going to happen to them. If this cannot be put down, there will be no spiritual process. Unfortunately, even in this land, which has been so steeped in spiritual process of every kind, when I say every kind, you have not even imagined how many kinds. This is a land that has witnessed every kind of spiritual process. 1 billion different ways as to how to approach your interiority, not one kind, 1 billion different ways. We even have 33 crore gods. That is when we had 33 crore population. Do you understand? This is very beautiful and symbolic to tell you that for every kind of human being, we opened a doorway. I think the best compliment for this possibility was paid by one of the sharpest American minds. That's Mark Twain. Mark Twain said, he visited India for a little over 3.5 months, and when he was leaving he said, anything that can ever be done either by man or God, has been done in this land. So much has happened, but in recent times, we have brought about a situation, even in the spiritual spheres, that people are beginning to wonder, is this really true? So creating an atmosphere, creating an ambience of grace, where one can just relax, melt and merge into that is most important. Can we meditate? Sit with your hands open, palms facing upward, slightly upturned face. Do not open your mouth. Eyes closed, mouth closed.
Chatata chatatava kapaya shasha sarahal.
Every emotion, every experience that you go through in your life is, after all, your making. If only you could be conscious that anyway it is your making. You would definitely choose the sweetest way to be. Devotion is not only the sweetest way to be, it is also the highest form of intelligence. But people who claim to be devotees usually happen to be a bunch of idiots. So, people who think they're intelligent always strive to stay away from any form of devotion. What devotion means? Devotion does not mean going to the temple, mosque or church and doing a particular form of ritual. Devotion simply means that in your life, whichever moment in your life when you're aware that there is something larger than yourself functioning around you, there is no other way, you will be devout. When you're overwhelmed, if you are sensitive enough, if you're intelligent enough, if you're sensible enough to see that something far bigger than you is constantly in function, then you're naturally a devotee. There is no other way to be. You may not be bowing down, you may not be performing a ritual, you may not be sitting in a temple, you may not be doing any of those standard things which are expected. You may be not dressed like one. Maybe your clothes are not printed with God's name. Maybe you never uttered God's name in your mouth. But if you're aware, if you're conscious that something far larger than you is in function right now, you are naturally a devotee. There is no other way to be. When you are obsessed by the power of your muscle or the power of your mind or what silly little things that you can do, and you think that's everything, only then you're not a devotee. In that condition, you cannot be a devotee. When you think you're everything, you cannot be a devotee. When you see the reality of life, that you are just a small happening here, and something far larger than you is always in function, if you're aware of this, if this is a living reality for you, you're always a devotee. I have never said this before. I hesitate to say this because the word will spread and spoil my reputation that I am a devotee. Oh, come on, Sadhguru, you are a devotee, you're arrogant. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to look arrogant. What kind of devotee are you? Oh, you must be Shiva's devotee. Shiva is my partner. This will be very hard for you to digest. I'm devoted to you. Whether you understand this or not, it's very difficult to understand this. Devotion does not mean that I have to bow down to you or touch your feet or sing your praises. In every way, I live for you, that's devotion. I took this very birth to make this happen for you, and that's devotion. When you hold someone's well-being above your own, that's devotion. I look terribly arrogant, but I am a devotee because it is the sweetest way to be. It is the most intelligent way to exist because it's the simplest way that you can keep yourself aside and let the largeness of existence happen to you. Otherwise, it's a lot of struggle. To wear this off with awareness is a lot of struggle. To wear this off with sadhana is a lot of struggle. This is the simplest way, the sweetest way. What one does with ease, if another does with great difficulty, you call that person a fool, isn't it? What a devotee does with absolute ease, many other people do it with great struggle. just to keep this little fellow aside. What a lot of struggle! What a lot of struggle! Lifetimes of struggle. Standing on your head, holding your breath, crawling on the ground and all kinds of things. Devotion is just a simple, sweet, beautiful way of just keeping yourself aside. Everything that's here, everything that you call it Isha, devotion is not a word that we use here. Devotion is not a practice here, but everything that happens here happens with utmost devotion. That's why the place is the way it is. There are many people here who've been here for over 20 years with me. Probably they have never prayed in this 20 years. They haven't been involved in any kind of ritual, any kind of anything. But they are great devotees because they hold something way above their own well-being. It is because of this that many things have happened here. The next 2 days that you're here, what I want you to do is, if you really want to be in the lap of grace, what is needed from you is, you walk like a devotee, not in pretension, not a pretentious devotee. As I said earlier, you do not know how this tree actually functions. You do not know how this blade of grass happens. You do not know how anything here is working. Do you know? No. So I want you to look at everything. Everything seems to be little more intelligent than you. When you are so dumb, when you see a tree, if you see the mountain, the blade of grass, everything, I want you to look at them for who they are, for what they are. No, my body is also… that is fine, your body is super. Your body is doing many things that you do not know. You as a person, what do you know? Do you know even what this blade of grass knows about life? You do not know. So I want you to look at everything. Even a grain of sand, it knows a lot more than you about life. So you are a junior here, they were all here way before you, and they know much more than you about life. So I want you to walk with a certain sense of wonder and devotion at everything. Just try this for next 24 hours. That's all that's needed. This is all that is needed to open the doors of life. That you do not think too much of yourself. You do not think something about you which is not true. Whatever you think about yourself is very untrue, because when it comes to basic life, what this soil knows you do not know, isn't it? Yes? Generally, in America they call soil dirt. What this dirt knows, you do not know. Your brain cannot do what this soil is doing. Is it a fact? Is it a fact? So, when there are such big people, stalwarts around you, you walk gently. You understand? Don't go like this. I want you to go. Because they are not simple. If you just walk like this, if you walk with devotion, slowly you will fall into the lap of grace. Without this, spiritual path is a damn hard thing to do. What I have been through, I don't want anybody to go through. That's why the effort.